trading, knowledge is power, and lack of knowledge in what you're doing can be costly, very costly. So you need a solid foundation of quality market education. Whether you're new to trading or a seasoned veteran looking to add advanced strategies to your arsenal, there's always something to learn and something to improve on. And now you can access the same knowledge that professional traders receive with Market Rebellion's Trading Education. I'm Bill Johnson, Head of Options Education here at Market Rebellion, and we've assembled a comprehensive curriculum based on decades of real trading experience, covering everything you need to know about trading options from beginner to advanced. We go way beyond the nuts and bolts of options theory to teach you how to apply specific trading strategies and the techniques needed to adapt your trades when markets shift. Regardless of your goals, you'll gain access to the education you need with easy-to-consume lessons so you can learn to trade with confidence, enhance your knowledge, and master the practical skills required for market success. So please join us for in-depth trading education only from Market Rebellion. Hey, good afternoon once again to all of our options traders out there, all of our market rebels. And Stu, we've got another very cool Coach's Corner, but I believe it's at least in some ways similar to one we did before, but we feel like it just has to be said because we have noticed,
so many other things just need to be
just needs to be said. We have noticed that a lot of the topics that we teach that we think people have gotten, and we go, this is exactly opposite of what we just said.
Yeah.
3 months ago or 4 months ago. So either people are not taking notes, not thinking about it, not working with it, but it keeps coming back. And if you do stuff like this, it is going to haunt you. There are very good reasons that we teach this. So we're going to revisit this. Our apologies. I don't think it's the identical topic, but it's a similar, I guess a similar theme. And the question is, this is going to give it away. You ready for this one, Stu? Here's our Chalk Talk question for everyone. Is 4-to-1 a good risk-reward ratio? Now, we hear this all the time. That's what gave us the idea of doing this. But what we're talking about is when people talk about a risk-reward ratio, how much am I risking? In other words, what am I paying versus how much am I going to receive? Now, even this is a backwards notation. It's kind of standard for the industry. But if you are risking $1, let's say you're paying $1 for the option, but you could make 4. So maybe it's a vertical spread. So it really should be 1 to 4 if you're going to say risk to reward, but they flip it. So that also confuses people. That looks like you're saying I'm going to risk 4 to make 1, but maybe we should call it the reward to risk ratio.
It's only half the question. Where's the other half of the question?
I knew you were going to know this, of course. Any professional trader knows this is not even, this is completely meaningless.
How about that dude in Miami, Bill, who
very good. We talked about that recently in a Q&A.
1 to 35
Stu and I were talking about
day,
this
all day.
With roulette. You can go to Vegas and get 35-to-1 on a single number. So there's a good example. If we're going to, really scream from the rooftops about what a great risk-reward ratio I found, or with 3-to-1, and I'm such a great trader because I found 4-to-1, go to Vegas, you can get 35-to-1.
35-to-1 all day long.
And the guy said, and Stu had asked, what would you do? And he says, I would do that all day long.
All day long.
And that is the misperception. People assume that because you can win more than you can lose, that somehow the odds are in your favor. And
people assume that every bet has like the same probability.
Same probabilities, and I'm just getting
so
more
if I have the same probability, why wouldn't I want to win more for the same money?
And you're exactly right. The problem is the market's not going to offer it to you. So let's go take a look at some of the details about this.
Unless you think you're special, and then
good luck with that one. Yeah, but a lot of people do think that. So let's talk about the misunderstood risk-reward ratio. Misunderstood because
People think that the whole game is, let me keep hunting for something where I can make 3 to 1 or 4. Oh, look at this. I found 5 to 1. Oh, anytime I can find 8 to 1, I call that a great deal. These are all phrases that we hear from traders.
Mhm.
And they're incomplete statements. In fact, those are completely meaningless.
Doesn't matter that you have like a 1% chance to win, but hey, take it. 10 to 1. I'm in.
So that's why we call it the misunderstood risk reward ratio. Traders are notorious for just blurting out the ratio and then thinking that they found something special.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the details here, and then we'll come back and
Okay.
answer that chalk talk question. So the risk reward
Sure.
ratio, again, it shows how much you're risking compared to reward. Now, I'm even not a big fan of using the word risk
No,
for the
it's
amount
incorrect.
of dollars.
No.
Right. People say, well, I'm risking 1 to make 4. Well, dollars are not probabilities.
Dollars are unknown.
They're usually reflections, right? But to even say that I'm risking 1 to make 4 already sounds like it's low risk for a high reward. That already becomes a misperception right there. But that's, again, what they're talking about. So let's say that you buy the 100-105 vertical call spread for $1. So when we talk about these risk reward ratios where it's fixed, like 4 to 1, it has to be some type of a limited strategy. For a long call, it would really be unlimited. Now, of course, in the real world, over a short time, you're not going to get unlimited gains, but it could be 10 to 1, 50 to 1, could be all kinds of very high numbers.
Yeah.
But to get something limited like that, it's going to be most of the time with a vertical spread. So we know if you buy the 100 call and sell the 105, the most you can make is the $5 difference. If you spend $1 for it, the net is 4. So you're looking through your platform, it says the 100-105 vertical spread, trading for $1, and a lot of broker platforms will say risk reward ratio is 4 to 1, and that's where they're coming from. So again, max gain is 4, and the risk reward would be 4 to 1.
And everyone, the way to picture this is just move the strikes around the stock price.
Yeah.
Right. You go in the money. These numbers are going to change as you go further out of the
Yes, they
money.
will.
You're going to get these, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, 1 to 8, 1 to 9, that kind of stuff.
Or maybe you have to pay 4 to make 1, right?
Yeah. Or maybe you have to pay 4 to make 1. What does that tell you? Think about that. It's
Yeah.
it's always a good approach. If you're betting 1 to make 4 and you make a trade and somebody is on the other side, obviously.
Somebody has to be betting 4 to make 1.
So they're betting 4 to make 1. What does that say about the trade?
Right. Why would they do it? If you think you've got the gold, why are they saying, you know what? I agree you've got the better trade. I'm going to take the other side anyway.
Yeah.
See, there's
right.
more to the story than just
Yeah.
saying I found a favorable risk reward ratio. The ratio tells you nothing. So quick little reminder for everyone, marketrebellion.com/get started for all kinds of articles, videos, tutorials, things like this to help you get a better foundation in options. Because what Stu and I have found is that there is a lot, and by a lot, I mean 99.5% of all of the stuff that's out there on YouTube is not only just bad, but it's just wrong. It's dangerously wrong because it's going to give you false confidence. And so that's why we want to make real sure that you're getting on a strong footing. So the first thing is that this is a bad assumption. I think this is what you mentioned before. Traders might say that 4 to 1 is a good risk reward ratio. And the reason they say good is because they can win more than they can lose. But as you mentioned, this assumes that they have an equal chance. And the market's not going to offer that. You can't say that team A and B in a football game is exactly equally matched, but there's a 14-point spread against one. Well, sure, take the other side if they're equally matched. But the reason there's a point spread against one is because they're not equally matched.
Right.
That's where these risk reward ratios are coming from.
So you could say, and that's a great example. You could say, well, if they are equally matched, then what would the point spread be?
Should
So
be
you
zero.
could come at it from the other side, and
Yep.
then you would have to come up with 0.
The crowd must be thinking that they're not equal, right?
If there's a 14-point spread.
If there's
Exactly.
a 14-point spread. So same thing here. Why would the crowd be offering that and saying, hey, everybody, we're going to give you this phenomenal deal to win 4 times as much as you can lose. Why
And
would they do that?
and by the way,
They're not
everyone, we
equal.
mentioned this quite often. The crowd, when we talk about the crowd is not this, some random group of
Traders, right? The
those
market.
jerk off market makers. The crowd is the market that's composed of every ECN, thousands potentially of traders
Yep. All the
and
people.
algobots and all kinds of
Yep.
quotes going into the system,
Yep.
creating the market.
Creating
That's
that
the
price.
crowd that we talk about.
Yep. So again, this bad assumption, and this is exactly what you were talking about. Here's the way that people think that this works. Again, this is why it's a misperception. So let's say you and I are going to do a coin flipping game, equal odds, right? 50-50. But I'm going to set the game up to where if it comes up heads, Stu pays me $4. And if it comes up tails, I pay Stu $1. Now, yes, no argument that that would be a phenomenal deal for me and an equally horrible deal for Stu. And this is what people are assuming when they say, oh, this is a good risk reward ratio. They're assuming that the probabilities are not in line with these payoffs. But now we have to ask, if I can see that this is a phenomenal deal for me, why would Stu agree to take the other side?
Well, I wouldn't.
Exactly. We would never get this bet off. Well, the same thing here. As a trader, you got to say, why is the crowd offering that? It's not, oh boy, I'm a great trader. I found a 4-to-1 risk reward ratio. We hear that. Oh, here's a decent risk reward
Yeah,
ratio.
it's a wrong assumption that it's an equal chance.
Of course, the reason for this is because they're not equal.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing that you have to take, the main point from this, is that probabilities matter. This is the unstated side of the equation. So let's say we have a 50% chance to win 4. We're going to go back to the coin flip. We would multiply these out.
Time out. Didn't I read somewhere along the line that options are pricing the probabilities of the outcomes in the future?
That is correct. That's another way to say that they're not going to give you that for free.
Let's just think about that for a second, everyone. If an option is there to price an outcome in the future, then that outcome has to have some chance to win or lose. That's the missing piece that people lose.
Exactly.
That's what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So let's go back to the coin flip that we just saw, 50% chance to win. I'm going to win $4 from Stu. We're going to multiply this out. And then we're going to add it to Stu's side, 50%, or for my side, I guess I should say that I'm losing $1. So what's the long-term outcome of this? How would we figure it out? This is how we do it. And so we multiply these out. 50% of 4 is 2. 50% of -1 is minus 50 cents. So that should come up to be plus $1.50. Now, what is this plus $1.50 telling us? What it means is that mathematically, I could also go to Stu and say, I'll tell you what, let's just flip the coin. No matter what happens, you pay me $1.50. Now, there would be no standard deviation there because it's always the same outcome. But in the long run, those two bets would be exactly identical. Either pay me $4 half of the time and I'll lose 1 half the time, or just pay me $1.50 every single time. Nobody's going to take the other side. And yet traders say, oh, I just found a great risk reward ratio. So the reason for these kind of odd sounding risk reward ratios is because these are not 50-50. And this is the part that nobody assesses. So let's say, what if we had a 20% chance? Maybe we have to draw numbers out of 10 numbers out of a hat, 10 numbers. If I draw 1 or 2, now I'm going to win 4. The other 8 of the time, I'm going to lose $1. So now what happens? 20% of 4 plus 80% of 1 is 0. What does that mean? On average, no money's going to change hands.
Means it's a fair bet.
It's a fair bet. Now, that does not mean that you cannot win or lose. We're going to talk about that in a minute. We're going to bring up a spreadsheet and show that this is a long run, not the next 10 flips or even 100, even 1,000. Somebody could end up on the winning side. But if you sit there forever, you're just going sideways. But what if we do a 10% chance that I can win 4, and a 90% chance that I lose 1. Now it becomes minus 50 cents. Now Stu is collecting 50 cents per flip on average, but notice it was always the same 4-to-1 ratio. That never changed in those examples. And yet I showed you one where I came out way ahead, one where we came out equal, and then one where Stu comes out ahead or I come out behind. And yet those numbers never changed. That's why it is deeply misleading to say this is a good risk reward ratio, because we don't know these.
See, the process in all these examples is exactly the same,
It's exactly the same process,
right?
right?
What's changing here? The price, Bill's changing the payoff, which is changing the price. The probability of the flip is still 50-50. That didn't change. Right?
Well,
Still gonna-
no, here I am changing the probabilities. I'm saying that, like, if we're drawing numbers from a hat, and if I draw the number 1, I win.
oh, we're not on the flip anymore. Got it. Okay.
No, these
Sorry.
are the probabilities here. And so that's why, if we look at the probabilities, these are the missing pieces right here. And that's what traders are not accounting for. And this is what the market is accounting for when they're creating these. So the thing is, for the financial markets, traders can see the risk and reward. I can see it's 4-to-1. I can see it's 3-to-1. Everybody can see that. And that's why they assume it's something meaningful.
Bill, should we or we save this for another time? Should we briefly mention where that probability on that price distribution, that bell curve might come from?
We can. Let me get through this right here. But yeah, see
Okay.
that in the markets, you cannot see the probabilities. But the markets are implying that, again, just like a football bet. We're giving it a 14-point spread against Team A. Why? Well, I think most people agree that they're not equally matched. But how do we balance that? And that's where the crowd comes in to say, at a 14-point spread, half the people are willing to bet on A, half the people are willing to bet on B, and now it does become a balanced market. That's what the markets are trying to do. But because you can't see the probabilities, people just ignore them and think that this is the whole game. It is
Well,
not.
You
So
kind of can see the
probabilities-
probabilities if you know
Yeah.
where to look.
Well, but even that's kind of, you could in some sense, but they're dependent on volatility,
Oh, of
skew,
course.
news, impending news, maybe.
Well, yeah, news is always going to be the
Right. So earnings are coming
silver
out
bullet.
tomorrow, and that's changing the risk reward ratio. So we can't say we know the probabilities. We could infer them. We could say that it's a fairly valued bet, and what is the crowd inferring? But traders never take that step.
Isn't that why they call it implied?
That's why they call it implied. Correct.
Because you
So,
don't know.
So
Right.
what did you want to mention now about the probabilities?
So, it's like the you have that bell curve, and that bell curve can be divvied up into standard deviations, and that standard deviation, the 1, 2, and 3 standard deviations, as you go further out, it has lower, the probabilities are lower the farther
Start
you
shrinking,
go.
right?
Right. And those standard deviations have percentages attached to them. Their probabilities, 68 and then 34 on either side, 13 and 2, and so on and so on. So that's what the market does. The market infers
Mhm.
this sliding scale of probabilities. And if you kind of take that as price movement, and you say, well, we're here on the stock price, and if I look at the out of the money, that's going to be out there in the 2 or 3 standard deviation. It's inferring that it's a lower probability,
Right.
and price will reflect that in the marketplace,
be
which is
down.
why you're getting the bet 1 to make 4, or bet 2 to make 8, or bet 1 to make 9. That's why you're getting it, because of that inference from the market setting the range, the implied range. And we hear that a lot in earnings, right? The market is implying a 6.7% move. Well, where's that money? Where's that coming from? That's coming from that front week straddle.
Yep.
It's what the market is trying to tell you. You
Right.
just have to listen.
So the question that you want to ask yourself, learn to ask this as a trader. The question is, have the market, I meant to say, have the market participants mispriced the probabilities? And because we don't know that for sure, You really shouldn't be screaming about what a great risk reward ratio it is.
It's possible that
It's possible, but
it's
you need
possible
to,
that it's mispriced pending what the outcome will be,
right?
right?
And it's
Market's not
possibly
going to get it right
mispriced,
all the time.
and it's possibly mispriced against you.
That is true as
We
well.
don't know.
Yeah.
But the question is not, is it a good risk reward ratio?
We've seen $30 straddles open on earnings with the day to go with the stock unchanged, and we've seen $30 straddles open with the stock down or up 60 points.
Exactly.
And we've
So
seen $30 straddles open the next day with the
30,
stock up or down
29.
30. Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep. So anyway, that's the main thing that you want to learn to ask is don't worry about the risk reward ratio. That is a completely meaningless, zero information sentence right there. The question is, has the crowd mispriced the probabilities associated with them? All right, so let's go find out exactly what this
I
means.
would say that it's a good approach to say the crowd has not mispriced
If you had to
that,
guess, correct.
and that if you want to take that lower probability bet for a higher payout, by all means go for it. Just understand that you are betting against a positive outcome for yourself.
But also understand that you are betting against the associated probabilities, not, oh boy, I found 4-1.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
that's the message
bottom
we're trying to
line.
get. So let's take a look at this spreadsheet. Now, what I've done here is I've created, we've got it 5,000 rows here, 5,000 flips, and we can structure the probabilities, which I'm going to simulate by putting numbers into a hat. So if we have 10 numbers into a hat and the winning numbers are, let's say, 1 to 5, be a 50% probability. And then up here, we can change the risk, the reward. We can change it's going to calculate the odds for us. Now, if we go sideways like this, that is a fairly valued bet. Green lines are plus and minus 1 standard deviation. Red is plus and minus 2. So let's go back. Let's start off with our coin flip. We'll make it even simpler. There are 2 sides and only 1 winning side. We can see that it's 1-to-1 odds, which is saying that it's even. One way to win, 1 way to lose.
Heads or tails?
Heads or tails. And if we structure it as bet $1 to win $1, going sideways, that's an indication that it's fairly valued. Now I'm going to hit F9 and recalculate. Now here's one where we ended up losing. We actually won in the short run, but just because you're down doesn't necessarily mean you had an unfair bet. It could just be randomness. We could also do this, end up way up on the winning side and say, oh, I've extracted alpha from an option. Look at all of the gains that I have. And in this case, we see it as absolutely not true. Now, I could also do this where maybe I have to bet $1 and, or let's say I only have to bet, I'll make it against me. The reward is actually 90 cents. Okay, so I'm going to pay Stu $1, but he's only going to pay me 90 cents. Yes, we should have a long-term drift down for me. But watch if we do this enough times. See if we can find a good one here. Of course, now it's not going to cooperate. But you can see there, I actually ended up on the winning side. And this is, again, where traders say, oh, I've unlocked the secret. I found a good risk-reward ratio, and look at this, I profited. And yet it was a horrible bet. You just got lucky. And yet they'll continue to think, no, I know it works because it worked before, and they keep doing it, not realizing that that's just sometimes can happen.
There's nothing, we talk about this as well, the psychology of that. There's nothing wrong with getting lucky. I mean, we all like to get lucky. The problem is you now think you have something,
right,
and it leads you to making bigger bets on lower probabilities, and eventually you're going to give it all back and you'll go negative.
So let's try this. Let's say we're going to put 10 numbers into a hat, and I can win on 2 of them. All right, now we can see clearly Stu's got the advantage here. I mean, I'm just sinking like a rock. But what if we look at the odds? 4-to-1. What this means is that if there are 10 numbers in a hat and I have 2 ways to win, how many ways are there to lose? 8. 2 versus 8 is the same as 4-to-1. So we're saying there's a 20% chance for me to win. And the markets in this case would be saying, well, wait a minute, if that's true,
You
The
can't bet
reward,
a dollar.
the reward should be, right, we're going to bid the price of this asset down, which will push the reward up. So if the reward becomes 4, if I tell Stu, you got to pay me $4, now we go sideways.
Right. Or the dollar goes down versus
Or
the
the dollar goes down.
or the
Exactly.
one.
To where
Either one. Same
I
idea.
could make that 25 cents and this at 1.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's all the same math. Now watch what happens as we continue. See, it's just a fairly valued bet. Once again, don't think that I can't end up on the winning side or that, see, we tried there, look at this, ended up on the losing side. That doesn't mean it was an unfair bet. It's just part of randomness. So that can happen. So what if we did, what if I made it to where I bid 90 cents for this? What's going to happen to our graph over here? So I'm spending less than fair value. That's a good thing.
Sounds like you're going to be a winner.
Okay, there we go. We end up with a long-term upward drift. And the less that I spend, if I can spend 80, line starts getting straighter. Start having less of a standard deviation. If I can spend 50 cents, look at that, almost a straight line. And that's because we are spending below fair value, not because we have a great risk reward ratio.
So this is where the price of an option is going to get bid up
Exactly.
as the algorithm determines what it thinks is the probability of the outcome.
Exactly. So if the market sees this option price at 50 cents, but they think these are the probabilities, they think there's a 20% chance to win, they'll go, you know what, I'll bid 60, I'll bid 70, I'll bid 80. But once we get up to around $1, they're saying, now remember, we can't see these probabilities in the market, but the market is sensing this is about fair, and there's your 4-1. It's not because it's great, it's because the market thinks that's what's fair.
And how
Now,
about, and watch this, everyone. How about if somebody was willing to pay like 110? Would you take the other side of that bet? Watch what happens. Make that 110, Bill.
think about what's happening. You're paying more than fair value, right? Fair value means you're just breaking even. If you're paying too high of a price, we should sink.
There you go. Say you were a winner if you're paying less than fair value, and now you're a loser. Right? The other side of that bet is you're a loser if you're paying more than
You're a
fair
loser
value.
if you take the other side, even though the 4-1 never changed because the
Right.
probabilities never changed. Now watch this. I could keep the 4-1 risk reward ratio. This is what we did in the slide presentation. But let's say instead of having 2 numbers where I win, there are 3. What's going to happen now? I have a higher probability relative to what the market is implying.
3
I should
ways
be
to
on
win
the-
and only 7 to lose.
There we go. Big, big edge. So this is what I was saying before. If I see this, I say, okay, the market is implying a 20% probability, but I think it's 30%.
See, I could pay more.
That's another way of saying the bet is too cheap. I'm just looking at it in terms of the probabilities.
This is so cool.
Okay. Now, what would happen if I said the market has, I think this is wrong, Stu. I think there's only one way to win out of this. Probability is only 10%, but the reward is still 4-1. Now we're going to sink. But in no case did the 4-1 ever change. And yet I can sharply change the graph just by changing the probabilities. So let's do one last one. Let's go to do roulette. 38 spaces on a US wheel. Single number bet is 1. Now we're going to have a lot of variation in here. So that should be, reward should be 35. So you can see there's a lot of variation. You can end up on the winning side or the losing side, but overall a sideways motion. But what if Vegas made an ever so slight miscalculation and let you win on 2 numbers? The probability space, even though it looks like 1, is covering up enough area for 2. What's going to happen? We have a higher probability relative to these payoffs. We're going to be vastly on the winning side. And then what if Vegas did this? What if they said, we're going to put 39 spaces like some of them do now? What happens?
Yeah.
Right? Now we're just going to keep sinking even lower and lower. So the point is you can look at this all day long at this 35-1. I can make it balance with 38, or actually pretty close. And I can make it go up by changing the probabilities, and I can make it go down by changing the probabilities.
So what's the bottom line here, guys? It's like the price has to change relative to the
To what people
probability,
to what people
or
think are the
the
probabilities.
probability is changing, then the price.
So the
it-
point is that the market is reflecting this price. So if we have this, again, this is our market, and people are saying, we can't see this, but I kind of just feel, based on the way that the stock has been moving and whatever, and the amount of time we have, I feel that there's a 20% chance for this to win. And on this vertical spread, I can make $5 on the spread. I would be willing to bid $1. So the question to ask as a trader, has the market mispriced this 20% probability? Not, oh boy, I've got a 4-to-1 risk reward ratio. Now, why are we hammering this point? Because we've done this before. We've done it at least 100 times in Q&A. And just last week, we heard people saying, oh, here's a decent one. This is 3-to-1. Oh, yes, that's decent. Thank you. Oh, here's another one that's 4. Oh, that's good. It's not the right question to ask. It's going to get you in trouble. So hopefully that drives home the point for everybody. And so with that, Stu, let's come back and answer our chalk talk. Is 4-to-1 a good risk reward ratio? So what do you all think?
It's the usual answer.
Usual answer, it depends, but what does it depend on?
The big
Depends
P.
on the probabilities.
There you go.
That's the question to address.
There's two parts to this. There's
Yeah, and if
is
you're
it-
just
is it
looking at the
good,
risk,
but is it good relative to what? What's the probability of the outcome?
risk reward just tells you how big the reward is to the price.
It's a
to the amount that
scorecard.
but it does not tell you anything about whether it's good or bad at all. It tells you, well, like we just showed, depending on how we tweak the probabilities, I can make it great, I can make it phenomenal, I can make it average, fair value, and I can make it horrible. So why can we say that 4-to-1 is automatically good? The answer is you can't. So please, people out there, stop looking at these risk rewards. It's okay to look at them, but don't place a trade just because you say, oh, I've got 4-to-1. Oh, here's 8-to-1. That's even better. That's incomplete information. It's just going to get you in trouble.
You have to say to yourself, I think the one to make 4 or the one to make 3, I think it's okay, even though the market is pricing that appropriately for my own personal reasons, whether it's from order flow or whether it's from something I maybe, God forbid, I see on a chart somewhere, both. My neighbor whispered in my ear, something that's not being priced into the market that I
That's what
believe
markets-
could be there.
That's what markets are all about.
That's what can make it okay, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's
You
what a
just have to
market is.
understand that's the corner you're in.
Correct.
And if you
But
want to
when
go
you
for
do
it, go
that,
for it.
you're making an argument about probabilities associated. You're not saying, oh, it's 4-to-1, therefore it's good. Just that is absolutely all that is telling you the ratio of how big the reward is to the cost. That's all it tells you. But whether it's good, bad, or indifferent depends on probabilities. And because we can't see them in the market, we can't really even say for sure if this is good, bad, or indifferent, or just fair. But that's what makes it a market. But make sure you are addressing the probabilities, not the risk reward ratio. So I hope that gives you some really good things to think about. Some super good tips, because we still hear it all the time. And hopefully we've kind of driven this point home for everyone's too. But anyway, very hot topic among traders, but hopefully we've shed some light on why professional traders realize that is not the question to ask.
And it's not just in the markets, everyone. Professional gamblers, the whole arena of professional gambling is all about what can I bet relative to the probability of the
probabilities, right? The gamblers know, the professionals in anything.
This is what they do. This is what
course.
professional gambling is all about.
Of course, and professional trading. But what we find is the YouTube crowd, like we like to call them out there, it's always about, oh, I found a good risk reward ratio. And that has zero information. Couldn't care less about that. You got to tell me about the probabilities. So with that, we hope you learned some good tips, and we'll see you next week on Coach's Corner.
See ya.